Hello, Untold True Tribe. Welcome back to today's episode. It's been a minute. Today's topic is a bit interesting because I was having a conversation about it last night, and really, that's what we are discussing today. So, today we are talking about the rise of social media on the perspective of education. So, we are going to be talking about how social media is affecting kids today, how it's affecting education, basically that because we've had a lot of instances where there's been conversations about give your kids phones to school, don't give your kids phones, or allow your children use social media. Try to what's it called? Trying to remember. Sorry, restrict the usage of social media among your children. So today we are going to be talking about that, and I have with me in the studio a lady and a gentleman, and I'm going to leave them to introduce themselves. Like the saying goes, ladies first. So yeah.
Hi, my name is Yah Isyama. I'm an educator with Ghana Education Service. I am also a student and a social media marketer.
All right, lovely, lovely, lovely. She has expertise in all those areas.
Hi, my name is Richard. I'm not an educator, but I've worked in the education space, ensuring that we are bridging the digital divide between kids and digitalization, right? So I currently lead operations for Blueprint and manage Africa Discourse Channel. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, it's lovely to have you. So, since you're holding the card, as you do in my studio, we share cards. So,
Thank you.
I just want to know what your first experience with social media was and how did it change your view in regards like it's being used for education.
I think that my first experience with social media was this happened somewhere around 2008 2009. It was I think was the boom of Facebook at the time, if I'm not mistaken, right? And around that time, I don't think we are thinking about social media for education. It wasn't the focus. Okay, it was like Facebook. No, I think
I think it was high five
it,
first.
it, well, for me, I think I came in late
Oh, okay.
to the field. I think we had a few other we had like the Yahoo Messenger and the likes, but I mean we didn't really know. But Facebook really brought out social media to us, and it was there. It was that, but. At the time, it wasn't something we talked about for education, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just for connection and connecting with our friends and loved one, being able to chat and say hi here and there. I think later in 2011, okay, it became in 2011 or somewhere around that cycle, okay, it became a thing we had to use for getting access to past questions. Right. So I mean that was where education bit, did come
Mm-hmm.
in. And moving on from there, we've seen a lot of differences in terms of use cases, how we can use social media now to facilitate our education, learning experiences, online learning, streaming and the likes. So I'd say that for my first experience, it was just for socialization. But then building on that, I mean, based from the context from which I grew up in, I had to be able to utilize that to learn, right? So I transited or transitioned to YouTube. Okay, and now that became my go-to learning location for. It became my go-to learning location for content that I thought was beneficial to me in the field of endeavor I was trying to get into, which is
Okay.
the IT and the computer science industry. So I used to learn a lot about networking and the likes. But that was generally my introduction to social media.
All
Over to
right.
you.
Yeah.
So, I'm a Gen Z, right? I was literally born into social media. So, but then my actual first experience was with Facebook too. And I think basically it was just for socializing with friends, connecting with them, and then just getting updates from your friends in senior high school, all of that. So that was generally my first experience with social media. And it's developed from there to other platforms when I started my tertiary education. Because I think at that point, tertiary education they were much into the using the social media platforms for connecting with your teachers and all of that.
Yeah.
And so during my time at what do you call it, Kumasi, that was we were using some of those platforms for group studies and all of that. So basically, my first introduction to actual social media was just Facebook, trying to connect with friends, and then updating them about what we are into.
Okay, interesting. Mine was with high five. I wonder how nobody talks about high five. Probably because when I was in JHS, my uncle used to work in a cafe. So when I close from school, I have to go and wait for him for us to go home. So I was exposed to like the internet, tech, like at a very young age. So it was high five I started using because he wanted me to be busy. So he created an account for me and I'll just be trying out things. And then I think it progressed to Facebook, basically. So I just wanted to chip in that. All right. So, yeah, you are an educator. So, over the years, how do you think social media has evolved regards to like education?
So one of the things I always say about social media is that, I mean, when people ask me if it has evolved as an educator and looking at the perspective from parents, I really don't think it has evolved coming from the government education sector. I think even at this point, some parents are still very skeptical about the usage of social media. The other time we had a parent teacher conference, and most of their complaints were, ɛna me ba no ɔba fie a ɔde phone na omiamia phone ne saa afei deɛ ɔbɛka kyerɛ me sɛ yɛsi ɔmo nkɔyɛ research bi me deɛ mentɔ phone ma me ba no. You see, you listen to most of the parents and you realize that that idea of social media is bad is still in their head and they're not trying to actually change that. But then right now as educators, we are trying to educate the parents and then, telling them that social media is actually good for education. It is a good way for the kids to research and then go on plus just learn, all of those things that are not available to them in person.
Yeah, you being an educator, how do you think social media has evolved in regards to education, like over the years?
So, like I said earlier, for me, I'm a Gen Z. So, I've been using social media almost throughout my education, throughout my life, actually. But then once I started teaching, I realized how different it is for kids in the government side. Even as it's now, most parents are still very skeptical about the use of social media. They would rather not give their phones to their children or buy them phones to use. But these days, as educators, we usually give our kids assignments to go research, go on social media platforms, and then find out information and all of that. For some of us, we know that it is a good platform for the kids to learn, socialize, and then also get, relate with kids from other culture or from other countries and all of that. But for the normal Ghanaian parent, I don't think it has changed. I think we need to do a lot of education in that side
Okay.
and then tell them that it is a good platform for our kids to learn and to socialize with other people.
All right. So, before I give it to Richard, I have just noticed this that like a lot of private schools nowadays are putting it as part of requirements that kids come to school with tablets, specifically for learning. But as you mentioned, what is like I want to know what's different, the disparages between like parents and parents who kids go to the government school, aside the financial bits. But why is it that parents who take their kids to private school are more open to give their kids access to those kind of things as compared to like parents in the government schools?
Now, that's a question that we all have to ask. See, I have a parent that her kid was in the private sector before she moved the kid to the government sector. And the kid had access to all of these things, books, tablets, all of these things. And then she moved the kid to the government sector and suddenly a lot of things has changed. She's worried about the kid spending time on social media and all of that. Like I said earlier, I think we just need to do a lot of education from that side. And one of the initiatives that I think that is going to educate most parents about it is what the vice president is doing. He started sharing tablets to government schools, the kids. And even my school, we have some tablets that we are about to use. I think that initiative would help, change the parents, their mind a bit about those things. And I also think that it's because of the free stuff. Usually when their kid is in the private sector, they tend to, they are okay with their kids using all of those things. But then when we change to the free things, a lot of things change for them. I think that basically we just need to educate the parent on some of these issues.
All right. Okay. Richard, over to you. How do you think it has evolved in education over the years?
I think that social media has become very important over the years, right? Apart from connecting with friends, being able to connect with your colleagues or your schoolmates and share ideas around maybe an assignment and the likes. That is very beneficial, right? So we've seen vast evolution around the social media space, and we've seen new platforms come up which are solving alternative problems in terms of, I mean, how access and use of social media. So currently we have more than, if I'm not mistaken, primary social media platforms, more than 10 of them, right? Where everybody almost have an account there. And there
Yeah.
are other ones that, exist in there, okay, that are not well known to us, right? So definitely we've seen a lot of growth, okay. But just begin back to what Yah said, or I mean the point Yah spoke about regarding the context of the Ghanaian parent. I mean the issue with that. I think the problem is exposure, okay, and also moderation. All right. So in private schools, okay, you realize that the teachers in private school are quite exposed one to a large extent in some cases, and they know better how to moderate the use of maybe those devices in the private school. Or you don't agree?
She begs to differ.
Okay, well that's what I feel.
But I also think that, sorry to cut you
Go
short,
ahead.
but I think that a lot of the private schools, apart from like the extremely high ones we know who actually employ qualified teachers, a lot of the teachers in the private school are SHS
Okay, I
graduates,
am referring to
SHS leavers.
I am referring to proper groomed
All
private
right, yeah,
schools
then we can
where
say that
they
because
employ the. So I'm looking at the context of the fact where she mentioned that, with the private schools. Yes, I'm talking about exposure. So you have a rich kid in GIS. Okay, I mean definitely
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
moderation, right?
Yeah.
You have like legacy girls. Okay, you have moderation because the teachers, they know exactly, they guide you to what they're giving you tasks, go do your assignment, this research. So your focus in school, whether it's boarding or day school, is revolves around a certain theme on your use of social media, right? But with the government sector, like you said, free, you're open, so your mind is open to anything, right? Nobody is there to tame you or guide you towards it, because I mean, how many students are we talking about to one teacher, right? So look at exactly. So even
So like, sorry, like to how
moderation
many
in
people?
the ratio of students to teacher in private schools. I mean, I'm talking about now private schools that are, are well groomed, right? In international private schools, or some of the ones that are meeting the international standards, they have a moderation for student teacher ratio. Okay, so either maybe 20 students to one teacher, not more than that, or even less than that. I'm not an
Yeah.
educator, so I wouldn't know the exact figures, right? But that is the case. In such moderation, right, that kind of system is put in, okay, the teacher is able to manage that. But in a public school, trust me, you're talking about 60 students to one teacher. They can be doing a lot of things, and the teacher wouldn't even know what's happening, right? And that becomes a risk. So a parent might complain because the kid is doing all kind of nonsense. Because also you look at the children are coming from diverse backgrounds, right? So they bring all the experiences in their own spaces to school. So that is the risk where parents begin to like, okay, my child is always on social media and like, but in a moderated school, in a moderated environment, right? I think the use of social media is not the social media, but again, I think we need to even define what social media is in terms of learning, so we can establish a good foundation for how moderation should happen. But then again, I believe that I am a strong believer that we need digital access growing up. Okay, it can be moderated, it can be controlled, but it needs to happen because we can't build a future, right, living in the past. Okay, we can build a future where the people who need to contribute to building that future do not have access to the resources, the devices, the tools that builds them up. Because normally, at growing kids or growing children, their consciousness is formed from birth, right, or as they grow through the age. Okay, so at 18, at 19, at 20, it's difficult for me to learn and get adapted to new stuff as I would have done when I was 6, 7, and 8. Do you get the point? So it's preferable that we open them up to such resources, but we also control how they grow. So that at the end of the day, when they get to 18, they have access, they can make viable use of such resources to build something. Do you get the point? I can say I'm a tech guy, right? So within the tech ecosystem, a kid who's been trained from 6 years to maybe 14 now, okay, has a better can can appreciate the knowledge better within the digital ecosystem as compared to someone who is now, being opened up to.
Yeah.
And this is where, for me, I think I remember this story so well. I had a colleague in university, right? The first time he knew how to turn on a laptop was, I think, second year in the university, and I was wowed. Like, and trust me, we are doing an IT program, computer science, computer information systems.
What was he
How?
doing in
Yeah,
level
because
100?
So you wait. So level 100, in level 100 you have like introductory courses.
yeah,
So
but
intro to everything. So you
no,
chill.
but in my school we
Well, your
did
school.
programming in level 100.
Well, your school. But he didn't have access to that. So all they did was they used to write codes. They wrote on paper, they wrote on the board. That's how they wrote codes.
Wait, what year is this?
Um I
I
okay.
need to
This,
ask
this
what.
is this is 2011.
But it's still like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still
Well,
strange.
it's strange, but it happened. And I won't mention the name of the school, but but then again, you realize that they were not opened up to. Do you get it? So at level 200, when he had access to his first computer, he knew how to turn on the computer. Now this person is one of, if you're looking for a top CG4 expert, right, in the industry today, is one of the guys you look out to, right? Animation, computer animation, anything around the modeling, computer graphics, right? Is the top guy. But this is someone who only knew how to turn on a laptop at level 200. Imagine if he had started earlier, all right, and had access to such resources. So I think I'll rest it there for now.
All right. So I think so. Just moving on to the next thing. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with somebody about TikTok, and we're having the conversation where he was like, he's not going to allow his kids use TikTok, and for him, he has not even downloaded the app. And then I was asking why, because now most of the times when I need something, I don't even Google it anymore. I'll first
TikTok
check
it.
on TikTok first before I go to Google.
Yeah.
Because people have made videos about it that I can easily watch and understand rather than going to read something on Google. So to me, I feel like TikTok benefits me. So now let's take it back to that conversation. It's the same app. So like same social media. To me, I know how to benefit from it. But other people, like somebody also sees that negative because people are showing nudes, people are showing things that are not supposed to be watched, probably because of your feed. So, taking it back to education and students, how do you think social media is supporting or hindering their growth? Probably you can take it from any angle you want, whether it's support or
Supporting and
hinder.
hindering their growth. It's neither here or there. And some of the things I'll say might not be agreed by with people, but um, they are my personal opinion and my perspective. So I'm going to share them just the way they are. So, first thing first, we need to understand that there is always a bad. You can't deal with without that, rather, right? It is there. It is fixed. Okay. It's a given variable. You can't get rid of that. Okay. But rather how you manage, again, I still go back to moderation. Okay. If I'm a parent, I want to learn about the platform before my kid is introduced to the platform. Because I don't get why parents, sit aloof and expect that, where should the kids learn it from? Because one of the things we need to realize is that kids spend more time in school than they spend at home. Okay. So we need to correct some of these things. Because if that kid is in the school, right, they learn about a lot of things with the different cultures, the different people from different environment they come into. They bring all their knowledge and come to share. If you don't train your kid right from home, okay, instill some foundational, knowledge, okay, they can be easily shipwrecked because of what information they are exposed to out there. Do you get my point? Right. So it behoves on the parent to do a lot more work understanding the use of the platform. And in that understanding, they can guide the child, right, to do it right. Again, everything stems from foundation. If the foundations are right, the child using social media will use it rightly. Would they get introduced to wrongs or the bad content? Definitely. But because their mindset is built in a certain way, okay, They know how to dispel wrong knowledge almost immediately when it's introduced to them. You get the point. So I still stick with the foundation has to begin from the home. Okay. And then that would also speak about the kind of school you take your child to. All right. What information are you allowing your child access to? Okay. What do you speak about in the house, in the context of your home? The context of the friends you keep around you, what information is your child allowed access to? Because what we don't realize is that children learn by observing more than they learn by what you tell them. So they will listen to conversations daddy and mommy is having, daddy and brothers and sisters are having, maybe their school or their church and the likes, right? If they are exposed to faulty information in their upbringing, they will be easily susceptible to faulty information on social media. So first, we have to correct that and build the right foundations for them. But importantly, right, it is great to use social media when used right. Now, TikTok, like you mentioned, is actually built for education. One of the things that TikTok is built for is for education. And the Chinese, if I'm not mistaken, they use that primarily for education. Yeah. We we have found alternative use for TikTok, right? creating,
Fun entertainment.
creating all kind of funny content and the likes. But at inception, okay, there was a goal for most of the things I learned growing up, right? I mean, my adult, my teenage, I learned them on YouTube. I literally used to go to YouTube to learn. I benefited from learning via social media or social platforms, right? More than I benefited from the classroom. I'm one person who I boldly say, regardless of where I am, right? My degree was important, but I've never used my degree after school. As a matter of fact, it took me 8 years to go back to the school to get the degree. Yes, it wasn't useless. It was important. They shaped me quite all right. But we live in a skill demanding, I mean, environment or ecosystem now, where it's what you know how to do as opposed to what you are taught to do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm talking about the school now. What you have learned to do, what you can show with your hands, as compared to what you've been taught. So, forgive me. How many professors can run businesses? Oh, I'm so sorry. But then again, maybe they have not tried. They've stayed in education, but they need to break that. To get my point? So TikTok, yes, definitely was established for education purposes, but now we've seen alternative uses. I think personally that there are risks attached to this, okay, but it still stems from training and what knowledge the kids are exposed to. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah.
So, I think that, I mean, of course, social media has a lot of resources. One of the things that I always say is that you need to have focused learning when you're using social media. So your social media usage should be focused. For me, I'm a gym girl, right? So if I scroll through my TikTok right now, you're going to see a lot of gym videos. And so if you want to make sure that you're using social media for the right purposes, then you should be accessing the right information. Just like Richard said, of course, the other informations are going to come. The other weird stuff, the other illegal stuff, all of those things are going to pop up in your view. But then once you're focused, you know what you should
Yeah.
look out for. And I think as parents, we should also be very restrictive about what our kids are having access to. Just like Richard said, and just like what you scroll through is what is going to pop up in your feed. So if you're scrolling through the bad stuff, you're going to get the bad stuff. If you're scrolling through the good stuff, you're going to get the good stuff. If we take our mind back to during COVID, government schools we shut down completely. There was no school, no sort of education for the kids for almost a whole year. But then I was tutoring a kid that was in GIS, and we were using Zoom at that time. But then also for her and her school, they were still schooling. They were using these social media platforms to go through their classes, normal class. So eventually, when we had to go back to the classroom, for them, they had progressed. Their calendar did not change. But for us in the government sector, our calendar changed totally. And for 2 years, we've been maneuvering our way through the calendar. I think it was this term that we were able to come back to the normal calendar. And so that is one major example of how important social media is for us, and how important for parents to actually guide their kids to, know how to use the social media, know how to access the information that they need, and then know how to connect with the right people on the platform to enable learning.
All right. So the thing is, people get valuable information on social media. Sometimes I look for things, I'm able to find it. But we get to see that on a particular topic, maybe person A is giving a particular perspective, person B is saying something else. And these are platforms we sometimes tell our students or young people to go and do research. So, how do we help young people identify this is valuable information and this is just misinformation? Something like Wikipedia, for instance. Wikipedia is just people putting information out there. So, how do we get to know that, okay, this information is actually true or valuable? And how do we know that, okay, this is misinformation to be able to educate people about it?
For me, I think that whatever information you're looking for, there are a lot of it on social media.
Yeah.
So you don't just limit yourself to one, site or one person. You need to look for various platforms, various people talking about the same issue, and then determine which one is accredited and which one is not. You look at the author that's giving the information out. You need to certify if uh, this person should be given this or has the right, accreditation to give this form of information. I know it's a long, but then it is something that you have to do. You need to research. You need to look at more, platforms, talk to more people, and all of that. And so, open particular information. You don't limit yourself to one person. You
Yeah.
get you look at other form of information. Look at the date. The dates also do matter, because at this point you can't be looking at information that was given like 1954 or 2000. A lot of new research has come up, and so as learners, when you're researching for information, we need to look at all of the dates, all of the authors, and all of those things to certify if any kind of information is right for us or is related to whatever we are looking for.
All right. Thank you.
So I'm not a tutor. I'm an educationalist, but I think that I will still stay with the point of moderated learning. Okay, and what I mean by that is, yes, you expose a lot of information, all right, but there must be guidance. That's why in families we have parents. Okay, so there's somebody that always, and you have mentors and mentees. Okay, nobody came into the world with fully formed knowledge. All right, you are exposed to knowledge as you progress through life. So maybe, for instance, my first interaction with humanities, yeah, okay, the information I build, right, would be off, yeah, or the knowledge I build would be off, yeah. When I interact with more further people, okay, I get new perspective and new knowledge area. But then one of the things that is prevalent is that you require guidance to help you take out the wheat from the shaft. Okay. And that is something that we need. And that is why I certainly don't think that you can do without the normal form of education. It's still required. It just have to be modernized. Okay, because you need somebody to guide you through learning. And with your point on you have to look at data, I do agree with looking at new research and new content, but still don't forget about history, because you can never build on something that's never existed. As a matter of fact, anything we are doing today is just modernization. If existed, it has. We've just found newer ways to get them done, but they've always been there. Okay, so I think that we need to. I don't know how this will work maybe social media. I think there are platforms that does that, guided learning, Coursera and the likes. You have professors who are teaching, and then you follow a sequence of learning resources. You do assignment, you come back, you go search for information. They come back, they grade you, they give you what they call feedback, or I think in other industry it's called what's the word? I can't find the word, but basically, I think feedback, right? So you need guided learning to help you separate the wheat from the shaft. So then again, how that will be implemented, I think, is based on what platform you're using. Okay, on TikTok, right? It behoves on the person who's interacting with the content based on their training already established to
Yeah.
know. how to define what is right from wrong. Anyways, I think that what it is what is wrong is known. Okay, it's being able to define or differentiate between what is seemingly right from what is right. That is what we don't really get. Because wrong, I think, is generally known. What is, if somebody says this color is red and somebody else says it's white, but you can see, but everybody can agree it's red,
Yeah.
right? You know, white is wrong. Okay. But how to be able to define that? Okay, is it a red or it seemingly looks like red? It could be other shades of red, right? So just that is the point. So we need guided learning to help either students or people, and that's where the role of the parent comes in, the role of the teachers come in. You still need or mentors or your mentors, right? Or a guide. They need to be guided learning,
All
and it
right.
has to be moderated.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I think so now. I'm just moving on a bit, just building on this. On things we how do you absorb on social media. We've seen like a trend of like people saying they have like the word succeed or showing off wealth or showing off material things mostly on social media. And then we've gotten to a point where a lot of kids or young people are assimilating that idea that, oh, this person is showing off a phone, is showing off a car, and so they have succeeded. And I feel like my life hasn't gotten that yet. And
Social media pressure.
exactly, like they feel like, oh, this person said they started selling maybe tomatoes. The next minute they own a car.
You're lying.
You get it? And so like kids have put it into their mind that so far as I've not gotten to that point, I have not succeeded. How do you think like this is like affecting kids' mental health? Because I feel like a lot of people being suicidal, being depressed is mostly because of some of these things they see.
I agree with you. I certainly agree with you. There's been a lot of pressure on young adults as a result of the advent of social media. They are being exposed to different cultures, right, from their own space. So definitely they see what people have done, right, and try to want to replicate same. It's normal. Human beings are product of influence. All right. Like I said, what you let in would certainly build up your personality, your perspective about life. But I think the point is back to what foundations does that child have? What trainings are they exposed to? Okay, materialism. Materialism is something you've inherited from home. Okay, where for instance, when you're growing up, you're told that you have to be a doctor so you can make money, and all of those things. It forms a perspective. So it's like you need to grow up and hustle. So money is the. But again, the foundation of all of the issues and the risks we associate with social media is based up on children's upbringing. I believe. I certainly believe that, right? And Jesus Christ says that the poor will be with you always. So we're going to have poor people with us. Okay, it's totally normal not to be rich at every point. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves in it because life is progressive. You're never going to be at the same state for the rest of your life. So there are experiences, there are things you're gonna have access to that would improve or even destroy your life. Okay, so for the people who are already rich, that riches might not stay long with them. Some of the rich people in the world, they go bankrupt. They go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yes, but because they've built a certain status, it's like, oh, they are still rich. No, they are poor. Problems they go through, right? So the association of materialism with it's bringing a lot of pressure on the youth. But I think we need to go back to the foundations. All right. I want to speak about this from the Christocentric point of view. Okay, and also that it's also based on what you believe, the mindset you are built on with. Jesus Christ didn't come to save humanity for people to be rich, right? Because there were rich people before Jesus Christ was introduced. All right. So we are going to have rich and poor people regardless. Blessings are not material. I think we should. I think also maybe the church plays a key role because some of these things have been established rather through maybe some of our religious
Yeah.
environment, right? But that is a problem. What information do you allow shape your mind? Again, back to the roots. What foundations is that child mentality built on? If there's built on materialism as a product as a measure for success, then definitely all they are looking out through their entire lifetime or whatever they are doing is to achieve that materialism. And if they don't get it, then they are not content. So they look for other means to, achieve that, which is wrong. Blessing is not about money. Blessing, you are blessed daily by being able to breathe.
Yeah,
Or you don't think so? That is
that's
blessing.
true.
You being able to sleep and wake up soundly is a blessing. The fact that your kidneys, your livers are operating well is a blessing. Do you get my point? So we need to look beyond materialism, or I mean success in materialism rather. Okay.
All
And
right.
maybe when we begin to do that, the kids will begin to realize that, oh, there's more to life than, achieving monetary successes, and they can do better. Being able to impact people's life is a blessing. Right. That's my opinion though.
All right. Yeah.
So, as an educator, one thing that I always tell my learners is they should be focused on personal growth rather than seeking external validation. Like, if the subject that I teach, if I have a student that's average and then maybe they are struggling with one subject, and then after some time they're able to move a step from their, I kind of like I pay so much attention to it. I make the whole class clap for them. There's a lot of celebration for your small step that you made. And then if there's a student that suddenly moved from nothing to 100%, I get concerned about it. And then I go to you and I ask you, how did you achieve it? How are you able to move from 0 to 100%? I want to understand the concept, how you did that. Do you get it? And so my focus is almost always about personal growth. You don't need to look out for external validation, even in the way they relate with their colleagues at school. There's this child that has stopped school, and we found his journal. And in his journal, he said that he was going to commit suicide. And I mean, none of us knew until we found the journal. But most of the things that he wrote about was the fact that most of his colleagues were allowed to go play football, go, just relate with their friends. They don't have to be home every day. And he thought that because uh, his parents were keeping him at home, it was too serious that he would
Mm,
want to go and commit suicide. Did he get it? And so, relating that to social media, I think that our kids should really just focus on things that are needed. Just like we said earlier, you should have focused learning if you are using social media. If at a point you are using it for entertainment, then just entertain yourself. There's this thing that they say on social media that you only see the success, you don't see the strive that I went through
yeah.
to get here. And so, if you're seeing someone, being successful in your own definition, you did not see the process the person went through. It is not a 1 day game, it is a very long, lengthy game that people go through. And even for me, as an upcoming social media manager, I've been following pages, very successful pages these days. And every day I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to get my brand's social media pages to this point? And I'm looking at the videos where they talk about how they started. I'm not just looking at their numbers and saying that I want to get here by the end of December. No, I'm looking at the journey, how they started their first videos, the videos from years ago, to try to build my own brand. You get, and so I think that's something that we can, get to the kids, just like Richard said, the parents, the moderation, the information that we are giving to our kids at a tender age, that is what is going to determine their mindset when they get on social media.
All
I
right.
think
Thank you.
I want to make a bit of a contribution to what Yah said. Right. Process. I think process is something we take for granted a lot. Okay, like you said, people don't see the pains. Okay, they are much they want to they see the results, but for every resulting outcome, there've been something that went into it. And I think that the method of validation we have built around the educational system is what is really challenging this. Okay, where you have to be first in class, the best in class is determined by how they perform academically in sense that they are writing exactly what the lecturer is saying, or they that method of validation or that system we have built, I think personally, it's totally wrong.
let
Right?
me let me cut
Hold
you.
on.
Let me cut. I just want to say that things have changed in the education sector now.
Well,
These days, there's nothing like you are first, you are second, you are third. We don't do that thing because I think that the researchers, they've realized that that is bad for their mental health. So a lot of things have changed in education now. We are no longer conducting exams and then trying to figure out who was first and who was second. We That thing is gone now.
All right.
I
Thank you
still
for
don't believe that.
clarifying.
No, I don't believe that.
All right.
So we still do WASI and we're looking for 7 A's for school placement.
No,
What are we saying?
what's the
What has really changed?
BEC is for school placement. It's not about who had the best grade and who had the last grade. These days, it's not about the
So,
grades that you had.
so all
You
I'm trying to
just
say is that
But I think
that
this grade still
encourages.
determines the school you go to.
no, actually, I have a
Oh, it
student.
doesn't?
Yes, I have a student that had grade 18 that had infantiman girls. Infantiman.
Interesting.
18.
Well, okay, I'm not in education, so I can speak about that. But I think that that validation system, right, also encourage some of the issues we are having today. Okay, where successes are built on how best, you compete among others. All right. I think we should begin to compete. So where we are helping each other grow and celebrating successes along the way. And people who also share stories on social media, I think it will be best because I know honestly we don't want to share the best, but it's always best to share progress. And if you back to parent, if you train your kid to always look out for what glitters, right, they'll never understand a diamond when first found, right, is not processed at its raw state. You'll never see the shininess in it, all right. But you see the beauty in a diamond after it's gone through a process.
Yeah.
The wine we drink, we enjoy it, but when it's a seed, grows into a fruit right before it is even plugged in, cut, and squeezed out.
Squeezed
So
ferment.
all of it is a process, and we need to begin to train the kids or young adults that process is important and pivotal for anything they want to do and succeed in life.
All right, thank you so much. I think so. My last one question is how then can we use social media to help kids like develop their skills and then their creativity? Because now we see a lot of young people as compared to like comparing kids in our country now. I think we are moving somewhere. But if you look at what kids in other countries are doing with social media, some are using it to like building wealth, building their skills. How do you think we can also use that here in our country?
This question is a difficult one because I honestly don't know, but I can share perspective. All right. I think first we need to open them up, and the parents need to be opened up more. Okay, so that they can provide some level of guided learning across board. It also be difficult. Teachers also have to be exposed to the use of these platforms. Imagine during lockdown within the government sector, we didn't know teachers didn't know how to use Zoom. All right, how can they guide students on how to use Zoom? A child will go on Zoom and be able to do all kind of nonsense, but again, we need to educate. I think it's called the train the trainer model. We need to educate the people who actually will utilize this platform to train the kids. All right. Um, Exposure is also important, but guided exposure is what we need. Okay. We need to expose the kids as early as possible. But we need to guide them on what they should focus on. And let's not forget the foundational trainings. As long as we get that wrong, it will be difficult for us to get. I mean, the kid can be creative and everything. They have the innate talent, God given, okay, but they'll use it wrongly. So these are foundations. Their belief system actually has to also be checked. What do they believe in? Why do they believe in what they believe? And how does that, I mean, impact or shape their mentality, their mindset about life? People don't wake up to commit suicide. The person, like she spoke about, there were a lot of things that built his mentality up to that point where, I mean, why am I in this world? Okay, we need to look at that. It's a collective effort. So there are no guided ways I know personally, but I think that if we are able to establish the principle of doctrine, what what kids are allowed to learn, what builds up their foundation, right? We can define a path for growth for them. So whatever knowledge you're exposed to, they're able to pick up what is the shaft and what is the width from that. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Building on what Richard said, I think yes, parents do have a major role to play in this thing. I also think that as an educator, the government has a major role in playing in this thing. I like that there's a change of curriculum for our schools, for basic schools. And there's a lot of IT inculcated curriculum into the syllabus now. And I think that is a very good initiative for us as teachers and then for them as learners so that they are exposed to this thing. It's just started. It is going to take a while for them to get used to it. But I'm sure that at a point we are going to get there. Our kids are going to be more exposed to these things and we would not have to worry about parents bashing us. Madam, me ban me mpɛ sɛ ɔbɛyɛ sei,
Mm.
so I think that initiative is a very good one for us as teachers. Also, it comes back to the parent. You need to change your mindset about social media. You need to change your mindset about your child being in the government sector. It is the same education they are getting. When you go to the private sectors, they still use the GES curriculum. And so we need to allow our kids to explore and then expose them to certain things. And if we lack anything as parents, I do believe that we should learn. We should be willing to learn these new things. Say, I don't know what some of them do, but in your job in the corporate world as a parent, you need to keep learning. Otherwise, you'll be outdated.
Yeah.
And so, as parents, you need to learn what your kids are being introduced to, so that you'll be able to guide them, as Richard said, and then moderate whatever they are seeing on social media.
All right, that's nice. So we've come to the end. We are wrapping up. So before we wrap up, I just want to take a few words from Yah and then Richard on the entire conversation. Your last words of advice, and then we close.
All right, so for my last word, I'd like to say that social media is fun. It is fun in every aspect that you choose to use it. If you're using it for work, it is fun for you. If you're an entertainer, if you are just using it to entertain yourself, it is fun for you. We should, as kids, we should use it in a way that is beneficial to us. We should be more focused on what we want from the social media. We shouldn't just be focused on just dancing on TikTok or there's in Ghana's TikTok media, there's a lot of bickering. There's a lot of bickering, and I don't have that on my feed. But then you hear a lot of, hey, in a way, I say those things are not needed. You need to be focused on what you want to use your platform for. And as parents too, we need to learn about this social media. We need to allow our kids to explore various social media platforms in order for them to be more learned, to be more, to be able to associate with other people from different cultures, see what other kids are doing, other kids are also experiencing. And I think with that, they're going to be more exposed. And also, there's money in social media. And so, if your child is using social media, allow your kid. You never know. If you're not over a TikTok sensation, then you'll be getting a lot of cash from it.
Thank you so much, Yah.
All right. I think for my last words, I'm going to say that the illiterate of the 21st century, I think this is a quote by, I don't remember who quoted this, but the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, relearn. Okay, so talking about all perspectives, both parents, both teachers, both, students, right? They need to be able to unlearn, right, learn and relearn. Okay, as it happens, the use of social media is very important and critical for growth of the continent, right? We need to see how we can integrate different industries, like learning experiences, right? And social media is going to help us do that. It's currently already helping us. Okay, and social media is not just Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram and the likes. Okay, basically the way you use social media would determine how far we can go as a people. So we need to begin to have a better introspection into what we're trying to achieve as a people. Like, why am I here? Okay, why am I using the platform? What am I using it for? Okay, and that defines basically how you go about engaging with content on that platform. Okay, so again, all of this stems from what you have been open to as a child growing up, what education, but what background you have, right? What foundations that built you up. That would define your interaction and your use with these items. If, for instance, a kid is interacting with somebody who is a thief, okay, if that child is brought up properly, they will not become a thief. All right. But they might maybe rub off an influence like stealing is not good. But if that child was open to any kind of knowledge, they probably, oh, okay, let Yanko, do you understand? So I think that social media is great. We shouldn't look down on it. We should try to find out the good because there is bad in everything, regardless.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. So today has been very educational because we were talking about education. And so, like I said earlier, I use social media to do a lot of beneficial things for me. Because in my line of work, I do design, I do UI UX. And that's how I'm able to get inspiration. I'm always on Pinterest, Behance, Dribble, trying to look for inspiration. Even on TikTok, Instagram, I'm trying to look at what other designers are doing. So I think for me, social media is good, but we need to be able to limit the kind of usage we use. And then as parents, manage what your kids are doing. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. Today's episode was talking about the rise of social media on the perspective of education. I have been your host. My name is Nakode, and thank you for joining us on Untold Truth. Do well to follow us on all social media platforms at Africa Discourse Channel. Check out our website at discourse.channel.com, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.